Hello everybody, and welcome to Noodle Journey, your destination for detailed and informative reviews of the instant noodle universe. And yes, I'm insane. Today is going to be the biggest mega review I've done so far. I'll be taking a look at every single instant ramen product made by Tapatio. We've got original flavor, beef flavor, birria flavor, carne asada with lime flavor, chicken flavor, shrimp flavor, chili lime shrimp flavor, and extra spicy flavor. Before we begin, please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy these reviews. This one has been in the works for a long time, and it took a lot of work to get all of these, so of course I really appreciate all of your support. Yeah, you folks have no idea how long I've been trying to get this filmed. I've been planning it for such a long time now, and every time I think I'm ready to start, Tapatio comes out with a new variety or new packaging. This review reflects everything Tapatio has ever produced as of January 2025, although now some of these are coming out in new packaging. But I don't want to wait anymore. This mega review is happening now with all of the old packaging, and from what I can tell, all of the recipes are still the same. And it's worth mentioning, a common thing I see people on Facebook or Reddit ask is, wait, Tapatio makes ramen now? Yes, if you've heard of the American hot sauce company Tapatio, they do also make ramen. They've been doing it for a couple years now. These bowls should all be available in one form or another in your nearest Walmart or grocery store for somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 a piece, and you can get them in 6-packs on Amazon or direct from Tapatio's website. Some of these also come in a cup form for lighter appetites, but we've got the bowls here for this review. The cups are just smaller portions from what I'm able to tell. Now, those of you who keep up with the channel might know by now that I'm a hot sauce fan, but I confess that prior to planning out this video, I had never had Tapatio before. So a few months back, I bought a bottle at Target to get a good idea of the flavor profile of the hot sauce before filming the review, because the soup flavors and all of these are going to have this flavor as a base. I have to say, I like Tapatio hot sauce. It's one of the tastier brands of mass-produced hot sauces that I've ever had. It's got a really good pepper flavor. It's not too watery. It's got a decent spice blend, pretty medium heat, and my favorite thing about it is that it's not vinegar-based like some other cheap hot sauces, which is really good on my stomach. One more thing in the interest of full disclosure before I get into the individual reviews, I have had a couple of these before, and I have a lot of thoughts about them. I've even mentioned the original flavor a couple of times in older reviews, but the majority of these flavors will still be entirely new to me. Let's get this mega review started. All right, so I'm going to start at the most logical starting point, the original flavor, because I believe all the other varieties are kind of a variant on this base flavor with different things added. Assuming this recipe hasn't changed since I bought this, there are 1,540 milligrams of sodium in this entire bowl, which claims to be 2 servings, which is, bull. This is a single serving for anyone with a normal appetite. Inside, we've got a block of these wavy noodles, we've got a flavoring packet, and we have some dried veggies on the bottom. I do believe some of the newer flavors have the veggies in their own separate packet, but again, same exact stuff from what I can tell. Now, this powdered soup base is an assortment of various spices and dehydrated hot sauce. The veggies that you just saw are cabbage, bok choy, red pepper, and carrot. Now, this is artificially flavored. I didn't see any meat or dairy in the ingredients, so I believe these are incidentally vegan, even though they're not certified vegan. But please check for yourself in case I missed an animal product in my reading. Now, the instructions for this allow you to either microwave or steep it in boiling water. From the last time I had this bowl, trust me when I say that microwaving is the better method for these noodles. So that's what I'm going to be doing for this entire review. And I know there's somebody on Reddit who's going to argue with me about microwaving noodles. Unless you like your noodles really, really hard, microwave works best here. Now, so let's put in the seasoning packet. We're going to fill to the line with water and cook this in the microwave for 3 minutes. All right, so the aroma is a strong blend of spices, some tomato powder for sure, lots of chili powder, which is what you want from a soup like this, and definitely a whiff of cumin. All right, I'll add some water, cook this, and be right back. Okay, here it is out of the microwave. We're gonna get some of this powder dissolved. So the smell of this does smell very close to the hot sauce. It's got a sour, spicy quality that my nose is picking up. Now, could you just buy your own artificial beef or chicken flavored ramen and add Tapatio hot sauce to it? Probably. And if you do that, you'd be missing out on the veggies and some of the additional flavorings in here. All right, looks good. Let's go for it. All right, let's talk about the noodles first. So you might have seen as I stirred this up that these clump together pretty tightly. They are very firm and could honestly even stand to go a little bit longer in the microwave. I've noticed that some of the newer recipes of Tapatio tell you to microwave these for 4 to 5 minutes. And I'm pretty sure they're the same noodle recipe. So you might want to put them in for just a little bit longer if you like them less al dente. But I like them at this texture. They're decent quality, they're a little springy, and there's a very sizable portion of them in here, which I really appreciate. They're a little slick, they make for easy slurping. The downside of that is the broth doesn't quite cling to them as much as I would like it to. They're not winning any awards, but they're decent enough. So 6.5 out of 10 for the noodles. And unless something weird happens in the other varieties in this mega review, that 6.5 out of 10 noodle score is going to stand for all of them. So this being a ramen made by a hot sauce company, you would expect this to be spicy, right? It certainly is. It's American spicy, not Korean spicy. If you can tolerate the more potent varieties of your average supermarket hot sauce, then this isn't anything to worry about. If you eat Tapatio hot sauce regularly, it's about the same heat level. If you eat Bulldog regularly, you probably won't even notice this heat. And if your palate's not trained for spice, this is a somewhat medium way to start. It's got a little linger to it, but it's not crazy hot. So 4 out of 10 for the spice level, and I'm pretty sure that score will carry into every variety except the extra spicy. I'll let you know if it doesn't. And now we get to the flavor of this, and I've already said this in other videos, I like this. I knew that already. I've had this variety before. What we have here is a spicy tomato broth with some nice sour flavor, a solid proprietary spice blend with lots of chili powder, cumin, garlic, onion, probably some other things I'm having a hard time picking out individually. It's not overly salty. I would say cumin and smoky chili are the dominant spices. Some black pepper, paprika, you probably get the idea. The rehydrated vegetables are decent, not enough of them. My favorite part about this was that all these little green bits that you see floating in here and stuck to the side are parsley, not cilantro. Thank goodness for those of us with the soap gene. Bummer for you folks who like cilantro. So you'll want to add your own if that's the flavor profile you're looking for here. The parsley doesn't taste like much, but it doesn't taste like cilantro either, so that's fine by me. I like that the broth consistency is a little bit thicker than you might expect. And aside from the lack of veggies and the clumpiness of the noodles, there's not a lot of major complaints here. This is pretty decent. The flavor profile is neat because it does, in fact, taste like Tapatio's hot sauce in soup form with some extra savory notes. So that makes it pretty unique among spicy noodles since it is Tapatio's formula. So nice flavor, decent quality. I'm going to score this at a 7 out of 10 overall. All right, and next up we're going to do the Tapatio beef flavor. And technically speaking, if you want a beefy Tapatio ramen bowl, there's this artificial beef flavor. There's a Birria flavor, which will be next on the docket. There's a Carne Asada lime flavor. And an argument could be made that the original flavor I just reviewed has kind of an artificial beef flavoring in it as well. So that's 3 to 4 distinct beef flavor varieties in this lineup. This one comes with a hefty amount of sodium, 1,830 milligrams for the entire bowl, which is 80% of your recommended daily allowance. So be careful if you watch your sodium intake. Now opening this up, we've got the Tapatio noodles, we've got a soup powder, and I told you we've got a vegetable flake packet. The soup powder has your usual assortment of onion, garlic, spices, and artificial beef flavor from yeast. And the dried vegetables are supposed to be cabbage, bok choy, and carrot. Once again, this is artificially flavored and it appears to be vegan unless there's something sneaky that I didn't catch on the label. So let's add everything into the bowl to cook it. We're going to start with the veggies. So I can't tell if these other pieces in here are just kind of brownish carrots or if they've actually got some kind of mushroom or soy protein in here. Whatever it is, I didn't notice it on the ingredients label, but it's cool that it's in there. We'll find out what that is when it rehydrates. And let's throw in the soup powder now. Smells very similar to the original flavor with the added artificial beef powder in there. All right, I'll add some water to this, cook it in the microwave, and I'll be right back. Okay, here we go, right out of the microwave. Give this a quick stir. And aside from that extra beefiness, there really isn't much to distinguish this from the original flavor. The spice profile smells about the same to me. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, I like the original flavor. I'm assuming the additional artificial beef flavor in here is only going to enhance that. So let's give this a try and see. All right. The noodle quality and spice level are about on par with the original, so there's no need to get into that again. Let's just talk about the flavor of this. Actually, before I talk about the flavor, let me mention that the separate veggie pack, as opposed to the veggies that are underneath the noodles in the original flavor, yielded a lot more vegetable content. So I really like that. I'm pretty sure those little brown bits came back as cabbage. Yeah, here's one. Pretty sure that's just a lightly colored cabbage leaf. Right, I don't see any evidence of mushroom or vegetable protein in here. Yeah, this isn't drastically different from the original flavor, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I really liked that one. The artificial beef flavor here is the only really noticeable difference, and it's pretty good as far as artificial flavorings go. My guess is that this is basically the original with some extra yeast and soy. That's usually what it is. So you add that flavor profile to the Tapatio spice blend, and you get something that kind of reminds me of barbacoa seasoning, like you might find on the ground beef at your local taco joint. It's a very similar flavor to Samyang's Picantia beef flavor and the Asha Hot One's smoky chili flavor, both of which I had fairly recently. It's a smoky, cumin-forward chili powder with some black pepper, onion, garlic. Right on the money if you're looking for a beefy Tex-Mex flavored ramen. The vegetables all came back nicely. They give a nice little crunch. So I think the extra beef flavor, even though it's fake, makes this a little more compelling than the original flavor. And that means that this is going to get a 7.5 out of 10 as an overall score. Good stuff. All right, and next up is Tapatio Birria flavor ramen. And if you haven't been keeping up with culinary trends in the United States, this requires a little bit of an introduction. For everybody else who knows what Birria ramen is, feel free to skip ahead to the next chapter for the review of this. So for the uninitiated, this is a Mexican birria combined with ramen noodles. That's a Mexican dish traditionally made from goat, in which the meat is marinated and cooked in a flavorful, spicy consommé broth. And in the US, we usually see beef instead of goat, although you could also use lamb or chicken too. And the basic idea is to cook some tasty meat in a tasty broth, and then you eat it as a stew, or you put it in your eating vessel of choice like a taco shell or a quesadilla, and you can dip it in the consommé while you're eating. Now, I don't know where the idea of introducing ramen noodles into the equation came from, but someone somewhere started a trend where you mix noodles in with the consommé and meat. and you get the best of both worlds, a tasty, meaty stew with some ramen noodles. So Tapatio was the first company that I became aware of that is packaging that birria experience into an instant noodle form. Although there are a couple others out there now, including Maruchan of all companies, which I have in hand and I will review that soon. But anyway, that's what this is in a nutshell. Let's get to the ingredients and the nutrition info. Sodium in this one is getting close to the high side, 1,770 milligrams, which is 77% of your daily allowance. Opening this up, this should look familiar by now. We've got noodles, a powdered soup packet, and a dried vegetable packet. There's honestly very little in here on paper that separates this variety from the original or beef flavors. The difference here is going to be in the spice blend, which is not specifically spelled out on the package. So in here we've got all the usual stuff you'd expect to see, like MSG, garlic, artificial beef flavoring, salt and spices. And then in the vegetable flakes, we've got cabbage, carrot, and bok choy once again. And this is an artificially flavored beef broth. I did not see any animal products in here, unless there's something I missed. I believe that this is incidentally vegan, but please double check for yourself if that matters to you. Let's assemble this so we can get it cooked. Yeah, so it definitely smells more herby than the beef flavor did, but still retains that kind of Tapatio spice blend that I've already tasted in the other two. All right, I'll put some water in and cook this, and I'll be right back. Okay, and here we are out of the microwave. And I don't know if my eyes are playing tricks on me, but this does look like a richer broth than the other two varieties were. The aroma profile is very similar to the beef, but I'm picking up on some other stuff. And I just want to taste it to confirm before I say what I think it is. It's not hugely different, but I do find the smell a little bit more pleasant than the last one was, which was already pretty good. So let's dig in here and see what we've got. All right, once again, pretty sure these are the same noodles. The spice level is about the same. It does linger, but it's pretty much the same heat as the first two. Let's get into what this tastes like. It tastes like that Tex-Mex beef-flavored bowl, tomato, cumin, chili pepper, garlic, onion, but I'm getting a hint of something else that I'm pretty sure might be a combination of oregano and cinnamon. It's making this a much more interesting eating experience. I do think that oregano and cinnamon might be used in some birria recipes. There might also be some bay leaf in here. I'm picking up on something a little earthier and a little sweeter. So possibly a combination of those three elements added to the existing Tapatio spice blend and artificial beef powder. Yeah, so this changes up the recipe just a little bit, and I think it does so in a very nice way. I like this better than both the original and the beef flavor. I think this is a great flavor combination. And look, let's concede here. Nothing that you buy in a powdered ramen cup is ever going to taste as good as homemade birria. So let's put that notion out of the way. You're never going to get the same thing. It's slow cooked for hours, but on its own merits, this is very tasty. The consistency is reasonably rich, kind of like a birria consomme, not quite as thick as the real thing. The aroma that I got before I ate this was cinnamon, and I really wasn't sure how it was going to work in the context of this bowl, and that made me a little dubious about how much I was going to like this, but this is really good. I can't imagine any of the other flavors in this lineup are going to beat this. That subtle bit of extra spice enhancement is just more interesting and tastier to my palate. This passes the realm of good for me and enters into almost great territory. So I'm going to call the birria flavor an 8 out of 10 as an overall score for me. I'm almost certain I'll be buying this one again. Okay, and now we come to the Carne Asada with lime flavor. And you guessed it, this one is more or less the beef flavor, but with some powdered lime and citric acid in here to give it a sour kick. And I know all this because this is one of the ones I've had before. I had a lot of thoughts about this the first time I tried it, but let's go for it this time with a proper review. But first, be warned, the sodium in this one is a staggering 2,650 milligrams for the entire bowl. That is 115% of your daily recommended allowance. That's nuts. Okay, and inside here is more of the same. Same noodles, same vegetable pack, and we have a broth packet, which according to the ingredients is more or less the exact same thing as the beef flavor, but with lime powder in it. Once again, this is artificial beef flavor, not real beef, so this does appear to be incidentally vegan, but please check for yourself if that concerns you. Yep, and that smells just like the beef flavor with lime. And that is basically the same veggie mix we've seen before: carrots, cabbage, and bok choy. All right, I just gave it a quick shake to even out the powder. I'm going to put some water in this and get it in the microwave. All right, and here it is. And as I stir this, yes, the Tapatio spices are there, but underneath it all is just this really strong citrus aroma. All right, so yes, I've had this one before, but let's give it a fresh taste. Okay, so before I get into the overall score here, just a note about the spice level. It's pretty much the same heat as the other one so far, but with the added acidity of the lime powder, this one just comes across a lot more caustic. So be warned. And now speaking of the overall score of this, you may have read between the lines from what I said earlier, but this is not going to be too favorable. So yeah, I knew what to expect because I'd had this one before. I was wondering if I'd feel differently about it now that I'm having it again, and I don't. I don't like this. It's not because I hate lime. I'm honestly pretty okay with the reasonable amount of lime in things, but this is not a reasonable amount of lime to me. This is way, way, way too much. It's overpowering. It's unbalanced. It's honestly kind of a relentless assault of lime on my palate. The last time I tried this, my wife, who could just pick up a lime and eat it like an apple without batting an eyelash, told me to tell you all that this is so friggin' limey that even she cannot handle it. So I would love to tell you about all of the artificial beef flavor notes in this and the blend of Tapatio spices and how it all comes together. But the fact is, I can't taste much of anything except lime powder and salt. It's incredibly harsh to me. I think this is a complete failure on Tapatio's part. And really, if they dialed back the lime to a reasonable amount, they might have something neat here. But as it stands, I can't eat this. The noodles are fine, the heat is fine, but the broth is just mouth-burningly sour and offensive to me. And so this one, I'm giving a 2.5 out of 10 as an overall score. I was hoping this would go better for me this time around, but it did not. If you really love a crazy amount of lime, like if you snort lime powder the way Tony Montana snorts cocaine, maybe you could find something to love here. But this is not for me at all. All right, so with that unpleasantness out of the way, let's see what this chicken flavor can do when it's combined with Tapatio's spices. And just our usual quick sodium check first, 1,550 milligrams or 67% of your daily allowance. And that's a little surprising because chicken flavors do sometimes clock in on the higher end of the sodium range. So that's not a bad number. Let's see what's inside. All right, so here, as you can see, I got stuck with one of the bowls manufactured without the vegetable packet. We have the same Tapatio noodles we've seen before. We have some dried vegetable bits mixed in there, and we've got a soup powder. Nothing in the ingredients is super surprising, except that the artificial chicken flavoring in here contains egg. Now, I don't know if this was changed in newer versions of this packaging, so what I have right here is not vegan friendly. Yeah, if you're vegan or you avoid eggs, you're going to want to check the ingredients yourself before you buy this. All right. Smells like pretty much the same Tapatio spice blend that I've been smelling with the other varieties. There is a whiff of chicken seasoning in there. All right, I'll go cook this and be right back. Okay, and here we are out of the microwave. We'll just give this a quick stir. And you might notice here that the broth has a slightly different body than the other varieties do. And that's that chicken powder giving it a slightly different color and consistency, I'd imagine. All right, smells good. Smells pretty much like the original flavor. Let's give it a taste and see how that chicken powder works with this. And I'll cut right to the chase. The answer is really well. So once again, you've got the emphasis on the Tapatio spices, the kind of chili pepper, cumin, garlic, onion, tomato flavor, and it just tastes really good with the extra savory flavor from the use of that chicken powder. And yeah, even though it's artificial, it's really good, and it's close enough to the real thing that I don't think I could really tell that much of a difference. So what this does is create a more chicken-forward tomato flavor than just a plain old tomato flavor. I think it's really tasty. Chicken soup just automatically brings something into a more comfort food realm, and this is no exception, assuming you can handle the spice. Nice flavor, definitely improvement over the original. I think it's on par with the beef variety, but with a different artificial protein flavor. So I'm going to give a 7.5 out of 10 as an overall score to this chicken flavor. Yeah, this is really good. All right, so now let's move on to this shrimp flavor, which has a few different ingredients that separate it from the others. And I honestly don't know if a sweet seafood flavor like shrimp will work with Tapatio's spice blend, but let's find out together. Not quite as high as some of the others, but still pretty high. The sodium count on this is 1,940 milligrams, 84% of your daily allowance. I do believe this one comes in a cup version, so if you have sodium issues and you want shrimp Tapatio ramen, look for the cup. All right, and inside, this one has the vegetables mixed into the noodle block again. We also have a powdered soup base. Now, you might think that the ingredients in here are just going to be shrimp powder plus the original flavor. But no, there's actually a lot more going on here. We've got a bunch of other ingredients. Besides the shrimp extract, there's bonito powder, cuttlefish extract, shrimp oil, and green tea oil. There's also dried parsley like we've seen in the others, and there's an additional mention of jalapeno pepper on the ingredients label, which, believe it or not, I didn't see specifically called out in any of the other bowls. So this should be pretty interesting. That's a lot of new flavors to build off of the Tapatio spice blend. So let's put this powder in so I can get to cooking and get to the review. All right, so really not much of a shrimp aroma or any kind of seafood aroma. Yeah, the powder honestly doesn't smell any different than it did in the other recipes, but it's not to say it won't taste different. I'll go cook this and be right back. All right, here it is out of the microwave. Give it a stir. Yeah, I'm not really getting a noticeably different aroma here compared to the original flavor. It's just kind of a spicy tomato broth smell going on. So it doesn't smell bad, but it does not smell very seafood forward. Let's give it a taste. Okay, yeah. Same noodle, similar spice level to the others. The difference is absolutely coming through. There is a subtle, sweet seafood flavor that is really nice. It's not strong. Like if you handed me a bowl of this and I didn't see the label, I would just assume it was a slightly sweetened umami tomato broth with Tapatio sauce in it. That extra little bit of sweetness though, it's good. Like it really blends well with the Tapatio spices. I think it balances out what is otherwise been a fairly salty, savory, borderline acidic finish to the other soups. Not in a bad way, but you know, the sweetness balances out the acid of the broth a little bit. I wouldn't say that it tastes like shrimp to my taste buds, but I think it's a really nice departure from the original recipe. That said, I think this is tied with the beef and chicken flavors for me. It's a different backbone to the broth flavor. And yeah, so that means this is a 7.5 out of 10 as an overall score for the Tapatio shrimp flavor. Okay, getting into the home stretch here, it is time for the chili lime shrimp flavor. And given how poorly the Carne Asada with lime flavor went, I don't have high hopes for this one. But maybe the Tapatio employee who developed this recipe is someone else. Who knows? But one major point against it already, the sodium count. Good God, it is 2,330 milligrams or 101% of your daily allowance. That's crazy. All right, once again inside, noodles, vegetable flakes, and soup base. I think I'm noticing a trend. I wish I had noticed it earlier on, but when I get to the last flavor, I think my suspicions will be confirmed. We'll see. The ingredients list both natural and artificial shrimp flavoring in here, a few other seafood extracts that were not present in the plain shrimp flavor, like there's squid in here. And of course it has lime extract and all of the other standard soup base ingredients and veggies as we've already seen in the other bowls. So let's put this together and get it cooked. It's interesting, it smells a little more peppery than the Carne Asada lime flavor did. It's not like a full-on assault of lime powder there. It's interesting. Maybe this will be better. All right, I'll go cook this and be right back. Okay, here it is. Just a quick stir. And from an aroma perspective, I'm getting flashbacks to the Carne Asada flavor. Just a lot of lime and not much else. But smell doesn't necessarily equate to taste one for one. There might be some nuance in here that makes this better than the Carne Asada flavor. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. So let me find out. All right, you know, I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong, when I was wrong. This is not the full-on assault on my taste buds that the Carne Asada flavor was. It's much more balanced. So what this is kind of coming across as to me is kind of a Tex-Mex version of a tom yum soup. That is to say, it's got a very mild sweetness to it that I can only attribute to the shrimp, with a pretty sizable but not overboard amount of citrus lime flavor. And while it might be slightly north of how much lime flavor I'm willing to tolerate in something, it is well within what I would consider to be the acceptable bounds of something that is lime flavored, unlike the Carne Asada flavor. It also is very salty compared to the other flavors. That is kind of a point against it. Yeah, you know what? I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm not mad at it. I will finish this. Probably wouldn't buy this one again because this just isn't my favorite flavor, but it's not as intolerable to my taste buds as the Carne Asada was. It's actually reasonably pleasant for something that's not completely within my wheelhouse. So I think I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 as an overall score. And if you like lime, this is the one to get over the Carne Asada flavor, for sure. All right, and finally, to finish out this, the biggest mega review I've done to date, we're going to end with the extra spicy flavor. And this is essentially identical to the original flavor from an ingredients perspective, with the exception, of course, that there is additional chili pepper or capsaicin in here to make it spicier. So really the only things I'm after with this part of the review are going to be how much spicier is it, does it impact the flavor in any significant way, and how does it compare to something like Bulldog for all of you spice heads. All right, sodium in here is a little bit higher than it was for the original flavor. It is 1,760 milligrams or 77% of your daily allowance. So getting towards the high end, but not as bad as some of the other flavors that we've seen. Okay, and inside we've got the noodle block and the vegetables already in the bowl, and the soup base is separate. I wish I had figured this out sooner. The commonality with all the ones that had the vegetables already in the bowl versus having a separate vegetable pack, all of the ones that had the separate vegetable pack were listed as being manufactured in Vietnam. This one and all the others that had the vegetables mixed in to the bowl here are manufactured in South Korea. That's how you tell. That's the difference. If you look on the back here, it'll tell you where the manufacturing facility is. Vietnam, your vegetables are separate and a little more plentiful. South Korea, they're mixed into the bowl, all kind of sitting at the bottom there. I'm sorry it took me this long to realize it. Usually I'm better at picking up on things like that ahead of time in these reviews due to some, pre-filming research. But yeah, that's just something I wouldn't have thought to look for. Anyway, let's get the extra spicy powder added in, and we'll get this cooked up. All right, on first sniff, it does smell a little chemical forward. I'm worried that that means there is capsaicin in here and not just, actual hotter pepper flavor. We'll see. All right, the last time I'm going to say this in this video, I'll go cook this and be right back. Okay, and here we go. One final stir for the extra spicy flavor. Now that it's all cooked up and the powder is dissolving, it does smell pretty much like the original flavor. I'm not getting any whiff of chemicals like I did with the raw powder. So hopefully this is a pleasant spice and not a weird artificial spice. Let's see how it goes. Okay, yeah. So for something labeled extra spicy, it's not like that much spicier than the base flavors are. If anything, I'm noticing that while it's not that much more potent, it does kind of linger in the back of my throat a little longer. There's definitely some chemical shenanigans afloat here because it doesn't taste purely like additional pepper flavor, but well, we'll talk about that in a second. The spice score for this, I'm going to say, is a 6 out of 10. It is punchier. It does stick around a little longer. I think if you're a spice head, you're not going to notice a huge amount of difference between any of the other flavors and this extra spicy one. But, you know, it's more of a kick. So if this is what you're after, you'll probably like it. As far as the overall score, yes, this does taste like there is a little capsaicin extract in here, which I would usually associate with a slightly bitter chemical taste. But there is some additional pepper flavor in here that I'm detecting beyond what was in the original. And that's good, because that means this wasn't achieved purely by extract. That means that there is some actual thought in here about how this was going to taste at the end. I don't necessarily prefer it over the original, nor do I prefer the original over this. It's just a little bit different. So I honestly think that the score for this one should be a wash with the original flavor. If you like the base flavor of Tapatio ramen and you want something spicier, you'll enjoy this. If you don't want something spicier, you're going to get pretty much the same flavor notes with just a slightly different flavor of pepper to it. So this one is a 7 out of 10 as an overall score. Okay, and at long last, the Tapatio Ramen Mega Review is done. I have filmed this over the course of several days. I'm going to have quite a bit of editing ahead of me, but hopefully all of this information was worth it for you to know what you want to buy next time you see these in a supermarket. And before I get to the summary of all these flavors, I just want to say thank you for watching, especially if you stuck with this all the way through. I know this is going to be a pretty long video, but really appreciate it. Let's talk these flavors. What would I buy again? Original, beef, birria, chicken, shrimp, maybe chili lime shrimp if I was really in the mood, and maybe extra spicy if I wanted something a little hotter. The only one of these I would say to actively avoid, in my opinion, is the Carne Asada with lime, because this was just too much. Too much lime, not enough other flavor. As far as the other flavors go, whichever protein and flavor blend you like, I don't think you can go too wrong with any of them. The noodles are all pretty decent. The vegetables are good quality, and in the cases where they come in a separate pouch, there's a little bit more of them. Remember to check the manufacturing origin to see if they're made in South Korea or Vietnam, and that will tell you how many vegetables you'll probably end up with if they're in a separate packet. And yeah, as a brand, I'm pretty happy with everything that Tapatio brought to the table here, except for this one. Tapatio, you could do better. So if you want to leave me some comments, let me know. Have you tried Tapatio ramen before? Which one of these is your favorite? And are you a fan of the Tapatio hot sauce? I would love to hear some comparisons from those of you who've had both. But of course, we can talk about anything you want in the comments. I hope all of you spice fans enjoyed this. I do spicy reviews pretty frequently, so please check out the rest of my videos. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I've got some pretty cool stuff coming up soon. I hope to see you on the next episode of Noodle Journey.